Ethan Cole had faced boardrooms full of billionaires, survived markets crashing overnight, and stared down men twice his age who doubted his empire. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. There she was, Sofia Ramirez. 6 years vanished in a blink when his eyes landed on her. She was standing in the departure hall, her long, dark hair tucked behind one ear, clutching a boarding pass. And next to her stood a boy. Not just any boy. A boy whose eyes mirrored Ethan's own. He froze in the middle of the bustling terminal, the rolling suitcases, the voices over the intercom, the smell of coffee and jet fuel, all of it blurred. For a split second, it was just the three of them in a bubble of silence. His chest tightened, his throat dry. The boy couldn't have been older than 5 or 6. Ethan didn't need DNA results. The resemblance was undeniable. The shape of his jaw, the same stubborn eyebrows, the way his hair curled slightly at the ends. Sofia noticed him then. Her face paled, lips parting in shock. She gripped the boy's small hand and instinctively tried to turn away. Ethan's pulse hammered as he moved forward, blocking her path. "Sofia?" he said, his voice low but firm. "Who is he?" Her eyes darted around, desperate for an escape. "Ethan, not here. Please. Answer me," he demanded, his gaze flicking to the boy again. "Is he mine?" The boy looked up at Sofia, confused. Ethan saw the hesitation, the fear in her expression, and that was enough. His world tilted. 6 years ago, Ethan had left everything behind for ambition. He built a company worth hundreds of millions, became the man every magazine put on its cover. But in that moment, none of it mattered, because the woman he had once loved, the only woman he had ever imagined a future with, had a child, and she had hidden it from him. He felt the ground shift beneath his feet. He wanted to scream, to demand the truth, to hold the boy and never let go. Instead, his voice cracked with restrained fury. "You kept him from me?" "Ethan, please," Sofia whispered, eyes shining with unshed tears. "Not here. Let's talk somewhere private." He clenched his fists, fighting the urge to cause a scene in the crowded terminal. Around them, travelers rushed past, oblivious to the storm brewing in his chest. Sofia tugged at the boy's hand, trying to walk away, but Ethan stepped in front of her again. "We're not walking away from this. Not this time." The boy looked between them, sensing the tension. His small voice broke the silence. "Mom, who is this man?" The words pierced Ethan's heart like a blade. This was no business deal. This was his life, his blood, his son. And in that moment, Ethan Cole knew one thing with absolute certainty. He would not leave this airport without answers. Before we dive deeper into this shocking story, imagine standing in Ethan's shoes right now. What would you do if you suddenly discovered you had a child you never knew about? If you want to know how this unbelievable moment unfolds, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap like right now, because this is just the beginning. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The boy fidgeted, tugging at his mother's arm. Sofia bent down, murmured something to him, then looked up at Ethan with fire in her eyes. "Fine, 10 minutes. There's a cafe upstairs, but then we're gone." Ethan nodded stiffly. He didn't care if she was boarding a plane to the other side of the world. She wasn't leaving without telling him the truth. As they walked, Ethan followed a few steps behind, his mind a storm of rage, confusion, and something else he couldn't name. Fear. Fear that he had already lost 6 years he could never reclaim. Fear that Sofia might take this boy, his boy, and disappear again. He would not let that happen. The cafe upstairs buzzed with the hum of voices, the hiss of espresso machines, and the clatter of cups on saucers. Ethan sat across from Sofia at a small corner table, his jaw tight, his hands gripping the edge so hard his knuckles turned white. Between them sat the boy, Lucas, swinging his legs absent-mindedly, tracing patterns on the table with one finger. He had no idea the storm raging over his head. Ethan couldn't tear his eyes off him. Every detail screamed familiarity. The tilt of his chin, the restless energy in his movements, even the way he furrowed his brow while concentrating. Ethan had seen that same expression in the mirror before every boardroom battle. Sofia finally broke the silence. "Ethan, please, keep your voice down." "Keep my voice down?" he hissed, leaning in. "You've kept my son from me for 6 years, and you want me calm? Lucas's head snapped up. "Mom?" he asked softly. Sophia reached across the table, brushing his hair back gently. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just eat your muffin." She forced a smile, but her hands trembled. Ethan's fury simmered, boiling under the surface. "Why didn't you tell me?" Sophia looked him straight in the eye, and for the first time since he had seen her in the terminal, she wasn't running. Her voice was steady, though heavy with exhaustion. "Because you wouldn't have stayed. You wouldn't have chosen us." The words hit him harder than a punch. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do," she whispered fiercely. "Back then, your company was everything. You lived for meetings, investors, deals. You barely slept. And I knew, if I told you, I would just become another responsibility. You didn't want a family, Ethan. You wanted the world." He clenched his jaw. He remembered those years, every night spent at the office, every morning chasing numbers, every conversation reduced to deadlines. But this? A child? His child? "You had no right to make that choice for me." Sophia's eyes glistened. "And what would you have done? Married me out of obligation? Resented him for taking you away from your empire? I wasn't going to let my son grow up feeling like a burden." Ethan's chest heaved. Her words cut deep, because they echoed his own past fears. He had told her once, in the heat of an argument, that he wasn't ready for a family. Had those words sealed his fate? Lucas leaned forward, licking crumbs from his fingers. "Mom, can I have juice?" "Of course, honey," she said, rising to get him one. As she walked away, Ethan leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Lucas, how old are you?" The boy smiled, shy but curious. 6. My birthday was in March. 6. The timeline matched perfectly. Ethan felt his stomach twist. 6 years of first steps, first words, birthdays, stolen. Sophia returned, setting down the juice. Ethan's glare cut through her. "You took everything from me. His first laugh, his first day of school. You robbed me of all of it." Her hands shook as she held the cup steady for Lucas. "I protected him," she said, "from disappointment, from you walking away." Ethan slammed his palm on the table, the sound making Lucas jump. The cafe went quiet for a moment. Sophia shot him a furious glare. "Stop it. Do you want to scare him?" Ethan closed his eyes, forcing air into his lungs. He had spent years controlling markets, mastering negotiations, bending entire industries to his will. But here he was, powerless, outmaneuvered by fate. He opened his eyes, softer now, almost pleading. "Sophia, why didn't you trust me?" "Because I knew you loved me," she whispered. "But you didn't love the idea of us. You weren't ready." The boy interrupted again, smiling. "Mom, can I go look at the planes?" She nodded, pointing to the glass wall where aircraft lined the runway. Lucas bounded off, leaving them alone in the corner. The moment he was out of earshot, Ethan leaned in. His voice was rough, broken. "I lost 6 years of my son's life, and you expect me to just accept it?" "No," she admitted, eyes downcast. "I expect you to hate me." He sat back, exhaling slowly. Hate was the last thing he felt. Anger, yes. Betrayal, absolutely. But beneath it all was something heavier. Regret. Lucas pressed his hands against the glass, watching a plane taxi down the runway, his reflection merging with the lights outside. Ethan stared at him, his chest tightening. The boy didn't know yet. Didn't know the man watching him was more than a stranger. For the first time in years, Ethan Cole felt small, and he knew this was only the beginning. Lucas pressed his nose to the glass wall, eyes wide as a jet roared past the terminal. The sound made him laugh, a bright, unfiltered laugh that pierced through Ethan's storm of emotions. For a moment, Ethan forgot his anger. He just watched the boy, his boy, mesmerized by airplanes, innocent to the battle unraveling behind him. Ethan rose from the table and walked toward him. Sophia started to protest, but something in his face silenced her. He crouched down beside Lucas, close enough to see the tiny freckles scattered across his cheeks. "Hey," Ethan said gently. "You like planes?" Lucas nodded eagerly. "Yeah. Mom says when they take off, it's like they're racing the sky. One day I'm gonna fly one." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. "You know, when I was your age, I used to sit outside and watch planes too. I wanted to go everywhere, see everything. Lucas's eyes lit up. Did you? Ethan smiled sadly. I saw a lot, but not everything. Some things I missed. His gaze flicked toward Sophia, then back to Lucas. The boy tilted his head, studying him. You talk like my mom. She always says she missed things too. That hit Ethan like a punch. The simplicity of a child's words cut through years of anger, regret, and denial. He swallowed hard, blinking fast. Lucas grinned, pointing at a plane lifting into the clouds. That's gonna be me one day. I'm gonna fly higher than anyone. Ethan chuckled softly. I believe you will. Silence hung between them for a moment, comfortable and fragile. Then Lucas asked the question Ethan hadn't expected. Are you Mom's friend? Ethan froze. His chest ached with the weight of what he couldn't yet say. Something like that, he answered, forcing a smile. Sophia approached cautiously, her arms folded. Lucas, sweetheart, finish your juice. The boy skipped back to the table, oblivious to the tension. Ethan remained by the glass, staring at the reflection of a child who should have known him his whole life. His mind replayed the milestones he had missed. Birthday candles, scraped knees, school projects. 6 years gone in the blink of an eye. He returned to the table, sitting across from Sophia. His voice was low, but his words were sharp. He deserves the truth. Her eyes flashed. Not here, not like this. When then? Ethan demanded. When he's 18? When he asks why he doesn't look like anyone else in the family you built for him? Sophia bit her lip, tears threatening. You don't get to barge in and rewrite his life. He's happy. He's safe. That's what matters. Ethan leaned closer, his tone fierce but trembling. He's my son, Sophia. He has my eyes, my laugh, my dreams. And you think you can just erase me? The table fell silent. Lucas hummed to himself, playing with his straw. He didn't know his world was on the edge of collapsing, or maybe being rebuilt. Ethan's heart pounded. He thought of the boardrooms where every decision had to be calculated, every risk weighed, but here, none of that mattered. This wasn't about profit or loss. This was about blood, about love, about a boy who deserved to know who he was. He clenched his fists, staring at Sophia with fire in his eyes. You can hate me all you want, but you can't take him away from me anymore. I won't let you. Sophia's hands trembled around her coffee cup. And if he doesn't want you in his life? Ethan's answer came without hesitation. Then I'll earn it. Every second of every day I'll prove it to him, because he's mine. The words hung in the air, heavy and raw. Lucas looked up suddenly, smiling. Mom, can we get ice cream before the plane? Sophia forced a smile. Maybe. She glanced at Ethan, her expression unreadable. As Lucas bounced in his seat, Ethan's chest ached with an unfamiliar pain. He had faced ruthless investors and hostile takeovers without blinking, but this small boy's smile, the smile he almost never got to see, was breaking him apart. He realized then, money couldn't buy back time. All the wealth in the world couldn't replace a single missed bedtime story. And in that fragile moment, one thought consumed him. What if it's too late? Now I want to ask you, the viewer, if you were in Ethan's shoes, would you forgive Sophia for hiding his son? Or would you never trust her again? Drop your answer in the comments, because the truth is, the hardest battles aren't fought in boardrooms. They're fought in the heart. The cafe grew quieter as the rush of travelers faded, leaving behind the hum of coffee machines and the occasional scrape of a chair. Ethan sat back, eyes locked on Sophia. She looked older than he remembered, not in a way that diminished her beauty, but in the weight she carried, lines around her eyes, the way her shoulders curved as if bracing for a storm. He hated that storm was him. Sophia sipped her coffee slowly, her hands wrapped around the cup as if to absorb its warmth. For a long while, neither spoke. It was Lucas who filled the silence, humming a tune only he seemed to know while tearing his muffin into crumbs. Finally, Ethan broke the quiet. Tell me everything, from the beginning. Her jaw tightened. Why? So you can sit there and judge me? So I can understand, Ethan said firmly. I deserve that much. She hesitated, then sighed, her gaze drifting toward Lucas. When I found out I was pregnant, I panicked. You were in the middle of closing that massive deal in Singapore. You were barely home, and when you weren't really there. Ethan's chest tightened. He remembered those nights, jet-lagged, phone glued to his ear, living more in spreadsheets than reality. "I thought about telling you," she continued. "I even rehearsed it, but then I remembered the things you said." "What things?" Her eyes flicked to him, sharp. "The night we fought, you told me you weren't ready for a family, that you didn't want to be tied down, that your company was your only child. Do you remember that?" Ethan winced. He remembered. He had said it in frustration, words meant to push her away during a heated argument. He hadn't known they would become prophecy. "So I left," Sophia whispered. "I packed my things, moved back with my sister, and decided I'd raise him alone. I thought I was doing the right thing, protecting him, protecting myself." Ethan's fists clenched under the table. "You should have trusted me to make my own choice." "Your choice would have been the company," she shot back, her voice trembling. "You would have resented him, Ethan, and I couldn't let him grow up feeling unwanted." He opened his mouth to argue, but the words caught in his throat. Because deep down, part of him knew she was right. Back then, he would have chosen differently. Maybe not consciously, maybe not cruelly, but ambition had blinded him. Lucas looked up, crumbs clinging to his cheeks. "Mom, can I get more juice?" She smiled weakly, nodding, and led him to the counter. Ethan watched them, a strange ache gnawing at him. Sophia holding Lucas's hand looked like something out of a life he had been denied, a family he hadn't even known he wanted until now. When they returned, Sophia set the drink down and sat heavily, her voice softened. "I didn't do it to hurt you. I did it because I loved you. And I knew loving you meant always coming second to your empire." Ethan's chest burned. He wanted to argue, to defend himself. But what defense did he have? His life had been a calendar full of deadlines, his heart buried under contracts and numbers. He leaned forward, voice raw. "Do you have any idea what it feels like? To see him for the first time and realize he's mine? To know I missed his first words, his first steps, his whole life until now?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Every day," she whispered. "Every single day, I wondered if I'd made a mistake, if I should have given you the chance. But I was scared, Ethan. Scared of losing you, scared of raising him alone, scared of everything." Ethan swallowed hard. The anger inside him flickered, giving way to something heavier. Grief. Not just for the years he had lost, but for the love they had once shared, now buried under lies and regret. Lucas tugged at his sleeve, startling him. "Mister, do you like soccer?" Ethan blinked. "Yeah, I used to play when I was your age." The boy grinned. "Cool. Maybe you can play with me sometime." His heart twisted. It was such a simple request, spoken with innocent hope. And for the first time, Ethan realized it wasn't about the years he had lost. It was about the years he still had a chance to claim. He met Sophia's gaze across the table. Her eyes were tired, wary, but searching. And in that moment, he understood. Forgiveness wouldn't come easy. Trust wouldn't return overnight. But there was something worth fighting for. Something worth everything. The airport had grown restless. Announcements echoed overhead, suitcases rolled across polished tiles, and the smell of fried food drifted from the food court. Ethan, Sophia, and Lucas sat in a fragile silence that felt like glass. One wrong word, and it would shatter. Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying the boy. Lucas tapped his sneakers together, humming softly, his energy bubbling like a soda about to fizz over. He was alive, curious, full of light, and Ethan hated himself for not being there to see that light from the start. Finally, Ethan exhaled and spoke. "Stay the night, both of you." Sophia's brows furrowed. "What?" "I've got a suite at the Hilton across the street," he said. "Cancel your flight. One night. That's all I'm asking. Give me time with him." Sophia's lips parted in protest, but Lucas clapped his hands. "Hotel? Like with a pool?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Exactly, with a pool." Lucas's eyes sparkled. "Can we, Mom? Please, please?" Sophia hesitated, torn between caution and the sparkle in her son's eyes. Finally, she sighed. One night, but just one. Relief washed over Ethan. For the first time in hours, the tension loosened. The hotel lobby gleamed with marble floors and golden lights. Lucas ran ahead, spinning in circles on the polished surface, his laughter echoing. Ethan carried the bags, a surreal wave crashing over him. He was walking beside his ex, following his son, checking into a room meant for families. A dream he didn't know he had until now. Inside the suite, Lucas bounced onto the bed, giggling as the mattress swallowed him. "This is awesome!" Sophia shot Ethan a sharp look. "Don't get his hopes up. This doesn't change anything." Ethan nodded. "I'm not here to fight. I just want to know him." She studied him for a long moment before turning to unpack. Lucas, oblivious, tugged on Ethan's sleeve. "Come see." Ethan followed him to the window. The city glittered outside, planes blinking in the distance. Lucas pressed his hands against the glass. "I can see everything from here." Ethan crouched beside him. "You know, when I was your age, I used to dream about views like this. I thought if I could see far enough, I'd find where I belonged." Lucas tilted his head. "And did you?" Ethan swallowed. Maybe I just found it now." The boy didn't understand, but he grinned anyway. He yawned, rubbing his eyes. Sophia tucked him into bed, smoothing his hair back the way only a mother could. Ethan stood back, watching, aching at the thought of every night he had missed. Lucas mumbled sleepily, his eyes half closed. Then, in a voice so soft it almost disappeared, he whispered, "Good night, Dad." Ethan froze. The words struck him like lightning. His breath caught, his chest aching in a way he hadn't felt in years. Sophia stiffened, glancing at him, but Ethan's eyes were locked on the boy. Lucas didn't even realize what he had said. He was already drifting into dreams. "Dad," Ethan whispered, testing the word on his tongue. It felt foreign, fragile, and yet truer than anything he had ever known. Sophia sat on the edge of the bed, her expression unreadable. Don't take that to mean anything." But Ethan's eyes glistened as he whispered back, "It means everything." Later, when Lucas was asleep, Ethan stepped out onto the balcony. The city stretched before him, alive and glittering. He had made millions, conquered markets, bent the world to his will, but none of it compared to the sound of a single word from a sleepy boy who didn't even know the power of what he had said. Sophia joined him quietly, arms folded. "Don't read too much into it. He calls his uncle that sometimes by accident." Ethan shook his head. "No, that wasn't an accident. That was instinct." Silence stretched between them. Sophia's face softened, her defenses faltering just for a moment. "He doesn't know you." "Not really." Ethan turned to her, voice steady. "Then I'll make sure he does. I don't care how long it takes." For the first time, Sophia didn't argue. She just looked at him, as if searching for the man she once loved, the man buried under ambition and pride. And for the first time, Ethan believed he could be that man again. The suite was silent, except for the low hum of the air conditioner and the occasional rustle of sheets as Lucas shifted in his sleep. Ethan stood at the window, arms crossed, his reflection staring back at him like a stranger. For the first time in years, he felt completely out of control. Deals, contracts, negotiations, those were predictable. He could measure risk, calculate reward, build strategies. But this was chaos. This was life. Behind him, Sophia sat in an armchair, her arms wrapped around herself. She watched him for a long moment before speaking. "You look like a man about to jump off a cliff." Ethan smirked bitterly. "Maybe I am." "Then why did you ask us here?" she asked quietly. "Why put yourself through this?" He turned, his voice low but firm. "Because I need to know who I am. And right now, I'm not sure if I'm the man I built, or the man I was supposed to be." Sophia's eyes softened, though her expression remained cautious. "You've always been dramatic." Ethan laughed, a hollow sound. "Maybe. But tell me something, Sophia. Do you think I could ever be a father? A real one?" She looked at him as if weighing the question, as if every ounce of her skepticism and hope was balanced on a knife's edge. "I think you could. If you wanted it more than you wanted everything else." Her words lingered in the air, heavy and unforgiving. Ethan sank onto the couch, rubbing his temples. Memories crashed over him, nights spent in the office until dawn, deals that defined his 20s, the faces of competitors he crushed to climb higher. He had won it all, but suddenly it felt like ashes in his hands. "I've spent my whole life building something," he said. "But for what? So I can die alone in a penthouse with no one who knows me?" Sophia didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence was its own truth. Ethan closed his eyes, picturing Lucas asleep in the next room. The boy's laughter replayed in his mind, that innocent grin flashing like a beacon in the dark. He imagined soccer games, bedtime stories, birthday candles, scenes he had missed but still longed for. A thought gnawed at him, sharp and relentless. What if he doesn't want me? What if I'm too late? His chest tightened until he couldn't breathe. For a man who had controlled entire markets, the idea of being rejected by his own son was unbearable. He stood suddenly, pacing the room. I don't know how to do this. No one does, Sophia said softly. Not at first. He stopped staring at her. But you did it alone. Her lips trembled. I didn't want to. I had to. The weight of those words crushed him. He imagined her holding a newborn in the middle of the night, exhausted and alone, no one to lean on. He imagined first steps in a tiny apartment, scraped knees patched with trembling hands, birthdays celebrated with second-hand balloons. All while he was in glass towers, chasing glory. I should have been there, he whispered. Yes, she said, tears shining in her eyes. You should have. Ethan sank back down, burying his face in his hands. For a long moment, the room was silent, but for the sound of his breathing, rough and uneven. Sophia stood, walked to him, and laid a hand on his shoulder. You can't change the past, she said softly, but you can choose what you do now. Her touch lingered for a moment before she withdrew, retreating to the other side of the room. Ethan stared after her, the emptiness between them heavier than steel. Later, when the lights were out and the city glowed faintly beyond the curtains, Ethan lay awake on the couch. Sleep refused to come. His mind replayed every mistake, every selfish choice, every moment he had put money before love. But for the first time, another thought broke through the noise. A fragile, dangerous thought. Maybe it's not too late. He turned his head toward the closed bedroom door, where Lucas slept peacefully. His son, his chance. And in that darkness, Ethan Cole made a silent vow. No more running, no more excuses. Whatever it cost him, his empire, his pride, even his heart, he would not lose this boy again. The first light of dawn crept through the curtains, painting the hotel suite in muted gold. Ethan stirred on the couch, his back stiff from a restless night. He sat up, running a hand through his hair, and listened. The faint sound of laughter came from the bedroom. Lucas's voice, pure, bright, and alive. He pushed himself to his feet and walked to the door. It was slightly ajar. Inside, Lucas sat cross-legged on the bed, playing with a toy plane the hotel concierge had given him. Sophia sat beside him, her hair messy, her smile soft, as she watched him zoom the plane through the air. For a moment, Ethan just stood there, unseen, memorizing the picture, the family he could have had, the family he wanted now. His throat tightened. He knocked gently and stepped inside. Morning, he said, his voice low. Lucas grinned. Look, my plane's going faster than the real ones. He zoomed it around his head with a whooshing sound. Ethan chuckled. I believe it. He sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to crowd them. Can I try? Lucas handed him the toy without hesitation. Ethan held it awkwardly, then made a clumsy swooping motion. Lucas burst into giggles. That's not how it flies. Guess you'll have to teach me, Ethan said, smiling for real this time. Sophia watched silently, her expression unreadable. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't care about her judgment. He was focused on the boy in front of him, the boy who deserved more than a stranger's love. After breakfast, they sat together by the hotel pool. Lucas kicked his legs in the water, splashing gleefully. Ethan sat beside him, rolling up his sleeves, letting the boy spray him without protest. His tailored shirts and polished shoes felt ridiculous here, but he didn't care. Lucas leaned against him, resting his small head on Ethan's arm. I like you, he said simply. Ethan's heart clenched. I like you too, kid. His voice cracked, but he forced a smile. Sophia sat across from them, sunglasses hiding her eyes, but her clenched jaw betrayed her emotions. She had spent years building walls to protect Lucas. Now, in less than a day, Ethan was breaking them down, not with money, not with power, but with something raw and undeniable. When Lucas ran off to explore the shallow end, Ethan turned to her. His voice was steady, resolute. I want to be part of his life. She stiffened. Ethan, No, he cut in. Listen to me. I don't care what it takes. I'll fight for him if I have to, but I'd rather not fight you. I want to do this together. He deserves both of us. Sophia's eyes narrowed. And what happens when your company needs you? When investors pull you back into that world, you'll disappear again. I won't let him get attached only for you to leave. Ethan shook his head. That won't happen. I'm not the same man I was 6 years ago. Back then I thought success meant money, power, winning. But now I know it's this. It's him. He gestured toward Lucas, splashing in the water. He's my legacy, not some skyscraper with my name on it. Her breath caught, but she stayed silent. Ethan leaned closer, his voice trembling with sincerity. I miss too much already. His first steps, his first words. I'll never forgive myself for that. But I'll spend the rest of my life making sure I never miss another moment. Sophia finally looked at him, her defenses cracking. And if he doesn't accept you, then I'll earn it, Ethan said, his eyes burning with determination. Day by day, laugh by laugh, I'll earn it until he calls me Dad and knows what it means. Her lips parted, but she had no answer. She looked away, blinking rapidly as if holding back tears. Lucas ran back, dripping wet, and grabbed Ethan's hand. Come on, play with me. Ethan let himself be dragged, water soaking his clothes, laughter spilling from his lips. For the first time, he didn't feel like a millionaire, a businessman, or a headline. He just felt like a man, maybe even a father. And as Sophia watched them, her walls continued to crumble. The afternoon sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the hotel lobby. Suitcases rattled across the marble floor as travelers rushed to flights. But for Ethan, time had slowed. He walked beside Lucas, the boy's small hand gripping his tightly. On his other side, Sophia moved quietly, her gaze fixed ahead. They stopped outside the glass doors. Beyond them, the city pulsed with life. Taxis honking, lights flickering, planes soaring in the distance. Ethan felt the weight of choice pressing on him, heavier than ever before. He had built empires, made billion-dollar decisions without flinching. But this was the decision that would define his life. Lucas swung their joined hands carefree. Dad, are we going on the plane too? Ethan froze. The word rang through him like thunder. Dad. This time, not whispered in sleep, not accidental, clear, intentional. His heart clenched so hard it hurt. Sophia stiffened, glancing at Ethan, her lips parting in shock. Ethan crouched down, meeting Lucas's wide, trusting eyes. Not today, he said softly. Today, I just want to be here with you. The boy smiled and squeezed his hand tighter. Sophia exhaled, something breaking inside her. She had tried so hard to shield Lucas, to shield herself, but she couldn't deny what she was seeing, the bond forming right before her eyes. Ethan stood turning to her. His voice was steady, filled with a resolve she had never heard before. I don't care what it costs me. My company, my money, my reputation, none of it matters if I don't have him. I'm not asking you to forget the past, Sophia. I'm asking you to let me be part of his future. Her eyes shimmered. For years she had carried resentment, fear, and loneliness. But now, staring at Ethan, she saw something different. Not the ambitious man who once left her behind, but someone stripped bare, ready to fight for more than himself. Lucas tugged at her hand. Mom, can we stay? Please? Sophia's throat tightened. She looked at her son, then at Ethan, and for the first time, she didn't see two separate lives colliding. She saw a chance, fragile, terrifying, but real. Finally, she nodded. One step at a time, Ethan. That's all I can promise. Relief crashed over him like a wave. He reached for her free hand. She hesitated, then let him take it. For the first time in 6 years, the three of them stood together, not as broken pieces, but as the beginning of something whole. Outside, the doors slid open, and they stepped into the city together. Ethan walked tall, Lucas's hand in his, Sophia by his side. He had no map for what came next, no guarantees. But for once, that didn't scare him, because this wasn't about control or success. This was about love, about family, about choosing to be more than the sum of mistakes. As they crossed the street, Lucas looked up at him. Dad? Yeah, buddy? Ethan replied, his voice steady, though his chest trembled. Are you going to be here tomorrow too? Ethan swallowed hard, blinking back tears. He squeezed his son's hand. Every tomorrow. Sophia glanced at him, her lips curving into the first genuine smile he had seen from her in years. And in that moment, Ethan knew, whatever battles lay ahead, he would face them. Not as the ruthless millionaire the world knew, but as something far more important, a father. And so, the man who once thought he had everything finally discovered the only thing that truly mattered. And now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe people can truly change for love and family even after years of mistakes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you were moved by this story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, because there are more stories like this one waiting for you. Stories that remind us all of what really matters.